Hello everyone and welcome to Call Sign Charlie Models. It is time for another inbox review, and today we have the famous A-10A Warthog, or Thunderbolt II, its official designator, from Trumpeter. And this kit is a old kit. It is, I mean, it's not old, but it is old in modeling standards. It was released in 2001, so this makes this kit 24 years old and almost 26 years old. But going on by the top box art, we have some great box art on the front. Right here we do have a fuselage length of 508 millimeters and a wingspan of 548 millimeters, which is in US units about 22 inches by 20 inches, roughly. A rough estimate, give it an eighth to a quarter inch either way. So again, going on by the top box art, looks absolutely great. We go on to the side of it. It's a very large box as well, and we have the the 906 Tactical Fighter Wing of the U.S. Air Force Reserve right here, flying at New Orleans Naval Air Station, Louisiana, when it was sent to the Persian Gulf in 1990. Then we also have a nice little history about the Warthog right there. And then on the other side, we have some parts that are included in this kit, like the ejection seat, the landing gear, the engines, more landing gear parts, and also our gun right here, and a boarding ladder as well. One thing that I wish that they would do for an aftermarket set of this is two things actually. A C conversion set, so you can do a C model as well. Quinta Studios does have the C model interior, but you do need to add a bunch of antennas and a few other parts to the C model to make that done, and also a correction for the nose. I do know that the nose on this kit is wrong, and there's some other parts around this area that need to be corrected for a C model, but the A model, from what I can tell, looks pretty good minus the nose shape. And Res Kit, if you're watching, please, nose shape and the Dragon loader for the machine gun, or the gun on this. So I'm going to get this box opened up and we're going to start taking a look at everything that's inside of the box. First off, look at the packaging of the box. And we open up the box and it is, again, a Trumpeter box, which is always nice and tight fit. So always takes a little bit of effort to get the box off. Alright, taking the box lid off and you look inside and it is gorgeously packed. I've never had any issues with Trumpeter packing of their models. So I'm going to get everything pulled out and set off to the side, and then we can start looking through all the instructions, decals, and all the plastic. So give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Alright, so starting off with the instructions, we have a nice little Trumpeter booklet in black and white right here. This is kit number 02214, and then we open it up. We have a nice little history about the A-10 right here, production and all that going on, and then we are starting off with our kit. So starting off with the cockpit, we do have the tub assembly for our cockpit with our titanium walls right here. Then we are sliding in our actual cockpit tub into this titanium bathtub, and then we have the back bulkhead going on. After that, we have our ejection seat going on, and then we have the pilot that we can put in there as well. After that, we're working on our gun for this aircraft, which is basically it's a flying gun with wings. Getting the ammunition barrel on, and this is a good place to put all of your weight to prevent this from becoming a tail sitter, and adding all the other detail to your gun, and then your barrels and everything like your ammo feed chutes right there. Then after that, we are assembling the gun to our ammo can right there, and then getting that into the fuselage. And then we are working on the aft end of our fuselage. We do have a couple of lights to put on to the back end as well. Depends on which version you're doing. This does need a little bit of correction right here. If you're doing the C model, there are a few differences behind the tail on that. Alright, then moving right along, we're going to get our cockpit tub into our fuselage, getting the fuselage halves put together, and then we're working on our nose landing gear section, getting that on with our rubber tire and also metal landing gear as well. Alright, then moving on, we are getting our fuselage halves front and back put together, and then we have some antennas to go on and also the refueling cap right there as well. Also adding in our boarding ladder at this time also. Then moving on, we have our wings going together. We do have a few parts. We also have the option of having our flaps in the up retracted or extended version right there. Alright, just working on the wings, we're going to be repeating a couple of these steps right here. We also do have the option of having the speed brakes in the open or closed position on that, and then we're just going to repeat for the left wing as well on all of that. After that, we have our tailplane going together. We do have a couple of trim tabs to put into here, and then we are getting our wings attached to our fuselage, both left and right. Then we are going to attach our speed brakes. Again, like I said, we can have the option of having those in the opened or closed position. And then we're working on our aft landing gear, getting that all attached, and our landing gear doors and flaps. And then we have a couple antenna going on to the back end of the lower end of the fuselage. Alright, then after that we have our main canopy, adding in a couple canopy pieces along with our photo etch rear view mirrors right there. And then we have our refueling receptacle right here for on ground, not in-flight refueling receptacle right there. And then we have this sensor pod, the paved penny pod right here, which was used during Desert Storm but was not used in later conflicts right here. So depending on which version you're going to do is whether or not you're going to use this piece. And then we have our engines going on. We have some glass covers for our engines and also some resin engines right there as well. And then we have a couple other pieces going on to our engines, and then we're getting those into the pods for our engines. Alright, then moving on, we're just going to attach the engines to the fuselage with another piece right here, and then we're working on all of our pylons and all that, getting the pylons attached, getting all those done. Then the final model, we do have some wheel chocks, and we also have a pilot right here. And then working on all of our ordnance can go. This guy can carry a lot of ordnance, so I'm assuming that we're going to have a lot of ordnance included in this kit. So going right along, all the Mavericks and everything going on. And then we have our loadout specifications right here. Different loadouts that you can put on the aircraft. Do your research also to see which one is air correct for the one that you're doing right there. Alright, then moving on, we have our painting and marking guides for our pylons going on, and then our color guide for just standard colors, no actual manufacturers on the color call out. And then we have our marking and painting guide for all of our ordnance right here. And then our painting guide using the tritone NATO or Euro camouflage right there. I do have two of these kits. I have I'm going to do one of them in this scheme, and then I'm going to do one with the TPS gray scheme right there. As you can see, we can do this one as the TPS gray right here from the 23rd 75th Fighter Squadron. And then at the very end we have our parts callouts. All the parts are easily legible from what I can see, even all the small parts. And then going on, we do have so far 4 sprues, 6 sprues of ordnance going on, 5 sprues of ordnance going on. Alright, then moving on, we have all the rest of the parts right here. Alright, so moving on to our decal sheets. We get 3 decal sheets, and looking at these, they do look pretty good, especially for being 25 years old. Or 24 years old. They do look pretty nice. Don't know how much of an issue these decals are going to be, but we do have the 2-piece decals right here that are going to help prevent you're going to be able to see, you're not going to have paint showing through on these decals right here. So very nice on that. We do have the shark mouth and also the warthog mouth right here for our decals. Okay, then after that we have our stencils right here. All the stencils do look very nice, legible, no misspellings or anything like that on those. Then the last decal sheet is all the stencils and decals for all of our Ordnance right there. Again, very nicely done. There is a lot of carrier film around these, so definitely going to have to take some time to make sure that the carrier film isn't showing up when you put them on the model. Alright, so now we're starting off with the plastic right here. The pylons and everything, they do look very nice for how old they are. We do have some nice rivet detail on there, as you can see, and then our sway braces for our pylons as well. Those do look okay for especially how old they are. Now our Mavericks also, again, looking pretty nice. There are of course aftermarket ones that do look better now, but these do look like they will do the part right there. And then our ECM pod on that, and then a few other parts as well. Our Sidewinder launchers for as well. And we get 2 of these sprues as well. Alright, so up next we have the sprue with our ammo can and all of the details for our gun right here. Looking pretty nice on all of that. For out of the box, for 24 years ago, these do look pretty nice. For the gun, the barrels, you're not going to be able to see the ends of them. You're going to have another piece that goes on the front of that. But for everything else that you can see on this, it all does look pretty nice on there. You're going to have to do some modifications to the kit to open up the gun bay if you do want to see this part right here. Alright, so now we have our speed brakes on this one. The top side look pretty decent with the panel lines. They might be a little bit oversized for the panel lines on there. And then we have our instrument panel on the back side. We're going to flip this over here in a second to show. But we have pilot right here. You can see some decent molding for our pilot on at least the back side. We'll flip it over here to see the other side. And then we have a bunch of the other control pieces and also our rear view mirrors right here. And we flip it over to the other side. Oh, also our cockpit flight deck. Alright, so that, the detail on that is very, very soft, very light. You do have a couple decals to go over that, but again, just the detail on that just looks very soft. Again, this is 24, 25 years old, so not expecting much from the straight out of the box molding, but it does look kind of rough and soft for the detail on that. Then we flip it over to the other side for our speed brakes for the inside, and we do have some decent detail on the inside, or is this the outside? Alright, so that's the outside of the speed brake, I think, right here. Again, no ejector pin marks on the inside of those. And then our instrument panel is blank. So all we're going to have is a decal that goes over there. There's not going to be any depth to your instrument panel. So definitely going to want to look into getting some photo etch or the 3D printed decals for that. And then our pilot figure. So the detail on the pilot figure looks okay as well. Not much to it. This face right here, absolutely horrendous on that. Definitely not going to be using this pilot figure. Okay, moving on to our next sprue, we have our pods for our landing gear right here. Some nice raised rivet detail all the way through on this. Very nicely done on that. And then our antennas, everything also look very nice. We have the back end for our cockpit right here. Again, some nicely raised rivets. And then our gun face right here, nicely drilled out on the barrels right there. A few other pieces. Then our other landing gear pod right there. Now we're going to flip it over to see our landing gear doors. And here's where we start running into issues. Is we have these massive ejector pin marks on these landing gear doors. So definitely going to take some filling and sanding to get those to be presentable right there. And then for everything else, oh, the boarding ladder door again has another ejector pin mark on that, so definitely going to take some sanding and filling for that one as well. And then for this landing gear door is absolutely perfect. There's no ejector pin marks, some nice raised rivet detail around the outside of it. Alright, so now moving on to our aft fuselage section, and we do have some nice raised rivets all on here, so very nicely done on that part. And then everything else, from what I can see, looks pretty nice. No real issues. The detail does maintain consistency going around the edge. And then even on the bottom we do have some vent detail on there as well. Definitely I'm going to go in there and I'm going to drill this out and then put some mesh plating in front of it and kind of make that look a little bit better. And the same with this one as well. But again, just a little bit of extra work and you can make this look absolutely amazing. And then we have our nose landing gear well. Again, a little bit of detail on the inside, not much to it. You're not really going to be able to see it unless you flip the model over and look for it. So we do have a ejector pin mark right there on the edge of that as well. Alright, so up next we have a couple of our engine parts, and we have two of these sprues right here. As you can see, our fan blades, again we have ejector pin marks on the fan blades, if you can see those in the clear parts right there. And then the tub, again we have massive ejector pin marks on those right there, as you can see on both of those. And then this ring right here, I'm not sure where that goes. And then we have this part right here that fell off the sprue, but it does have some nice bolt detail. We do have a seam line going down the middle right here to sand off if you're going to use this part. There are aftermarket engines out there for this kit that will look a lot better than this, but we do have a resin engine coming up here very shortly. Alright, so like I said, we have a resin engine coming up, and the detail on this cast engine actually is very, very nice. Gorgeous plumbing detail going on there as well. You can see all the boxes and everything. You paint this and weather it up, and then maybe even add a few little decals on there on these boxes right here to kind of liven it up a little bit more. This is going to look really nice on that. So there's all your detail. There's the exhaust area. It is drilled out a little bit, and you'll have to paint the inside of here black to kind of give that hollow look to it. Alright, up next we have our clear sprue right here. Looking at the main canopy, crystal clear on here. We do have this piece that is I don't know what it's for, but this is actually supposed to be there. And then we do have a little seam right here on the canopy to take care of, but it is very short and easy to take care of. And then for our front windscreen, the front windscreen, there's another issue with this, is that it is out of shape. This front area right here is not the correct shape for that. And we also do have a couple of like interior cracks, as you can see right there. So there's no buffing or sanding that out to get that fixed. So definitely going to have to take some work to get the correct shape of the front end of this piece right here, but should be doable. Then we have our other clear sprue right here with our HUD screen right here with this giant ejector pin mark right in the middle of it. So I would highly recommend just getting some clear film and like from a clear styrene or something like that, and then making your own, because that is super thick, also wavy. As you can see when I'm putting in the light in it, you can see how the light reflects off of it. So major issues with that HUD screen, but the rest of the clear parts do look okay. We have the clear part for our instrument panel right here. Again, just going to be putting decals on top of that, so yeah, that's not going to look very good when it's all done. Alright, so up next we have our landing gear, and I was incorrect. I thought that this kit came with metal landing gear, but it does not. It just comes with the plastic landing gear, no metal core to it. this is your boarding ladder. I did build one. I guess some of them do come with metal parts and others don't, because the other one I did a while ago did come with a metal boarding ladder and metal landing gear and all that. So you might get lucky with one that has metal landing gear and everything. But you do have the seam line going down the middle on here. No ejector pin marks from what I can see. And there's also a little bit of a bend on this part right here. It's not a straight piece. It's a very slight bend to it, but there is a bend. And then we work on our nose landing gear right here. Again, very nice. I'm not seeing any ejector pin marks yet on there. Just the seam line to take care of on that right there and shave it down. Now this is going to be a heavy kit, so what I'm wondering is how strong this plastic gear is. Might have to go and spend the money to get some metal landing gear, just to make sure that you don't have landing gear that gives out on you in a couple years. Then we have our ejection seat. Ejection seat looks okay. A little bit of cable detail on there, and then some seat padding, molded in seat belts as well. So you're going to be adding a couple of pieces to this, not much, but you have the back end here and the top piece, and then also the oxygen bottle right here that goes on. But again, it should look okay once painted up and weathered. Again, there's better options out there for it, but for straight out of the box, this should do the job. Alright, up next we have our rubber or vinyl wheels right here. They do feel pretty nice. There's no... If there is a seam line down the middle, it is very faint. The tread detail on here is actually pretty nice, but there is no sidewall detail on there. So that's one issue with it. But they should look pretty nice when they are all built up with the hubs and everything in there. You also do get this nice little plastic case that holds all these parts. So definitely after the build, you can keep this as a parts storage bin or something like that when you're all done with this build. Alright, so now we're working on our tailplane, or looking at our tailplane, not working on it, but we have our elevators right here. They look pretty nice. Panel line and rivet details, they look okay, especially for being 25 years old. The panel line and rivet detail might be a little bit oversized, but they do look okay on that. So definitely we are in the need of a newly tooled A10 in 1/32 scale, especially how all the other companies like Great Wall Hobbies, Hobby Boss, all those are coming out with newly tooled A10s, but we're still stuck with this A10 from 2001. But the detail on here, like I said, it looks okay. It'll do the job. Just takes a little bit to a lot of extra work. We'll get into a lot of extra work here in just a second when we start showing the front end of the fuselage. Alright, so up next we have a double sprue with our Ordnance right here. We have the fins for our Mark 82s, it looks like right there, and also our sidewinders as well, and then our sidewinder launch rail going on, and then we have the bodies for our Mark 82s right there. I am not a fan of Trumpeter Ordnance right here. The detail on these just look very soft. Just a couple panel lines here and there. Definitely could be a lot better. Here's our multiple ejector rack. Again, very little detail to it, and looks very soft, and also looks out of shape as well. Does not look like it's the correct shape on that. Alright, so up next we have our engine covers right here. Again, little bit of rivet detail on there, and then also the sawtooth. That's going to be our hinge system for that on both of those. And you can see some of the titanium tub going on and some more cockpit parts going right through there. Then the back ends for our speed brakes, a few other parts, and then our ailerons right through there, or not sure, or no, these are our rudders right here. We flip it over to the other side, and if you're going to have the engine hatches open, this is what you're going to have to deal with on that. You have all that giant ejector pin marks right there and there on both sides, front and back on that, as you can see. Cockpit tub, you're not going to see this, so no worries with that. And then everything else, we do have some nice detail on the inside of our speed brake well, but we also do have ejector pin marks in between of every single frame that we're going to have to take care of. Then we have another sprue of Ordnance right here, and a fuel tank. Again, these Ordnance they look okay, but they're not good. Definitely going to take some work to get them to look good, or just get the aftermarket stuff like I'm going to. Alright, so now we have another sprue. This is for some of our wing parts right here. Not going to be able to see much of it, and this side of it is nice and smooth, no issues with any of that. So there's that sprue. And then this sprue is our engine pods right here. Again, raised rivets around the back end right here, which are pretty nice, and then we have recessed rivets on that. Now the rivet detail does go very soft and fades out when you go around the bend right here, so definitely going to need to do some re-riveting and re-scribing on this detail along here. As you can see, even the raised rivets do go a little bit soft around the edge right there. And the same thing with the underside of the engine pods right there, raised detail. We also do have some mold release agent on the plastic as well. And then the front end of our engine faces, again, panel line seems a little bit soft going around here, and we also do have some flash on the back side of it as well. Then you can see the rest of our engine detail right here. Then our wheel hubs as well. The wheel hubs do look okay also, with our brake detail and everything. Alright, so now we're moving on to the upper side or top side of the wings. Again, panel lines, a little bit of rivet detail on there. Panel lines and rivet detail might be a little bit oversized on here, but when you get it all painted up and everything, it's going to look okay for that. As you can see, the wings, both tops here, you have the engine pod or the landing gear pods or sponsons, whatever you want to call them right there. A little bit of detail on those. Definitely going to take a lot of work to get this kit up to snuff when you're building this. Then we have the underside of the wings right here. This is our flare and chaff dispensers right here. And as you can see, just the panel lines, a little bit of rivet detail on some of the panels right there, and then the connection points for our pylons as well, and then there's the other wing as well. Alright, so now we have our last sprue. I'm starting off with our vertical stabilizers. We do have some very nice rivet detail on there, some raised rivet, along with some recessed rivets as well. Now the recessed rivets do seem like they are very soft and very faded on that. I'm hoping that the camera is even having a hard time on picking up those rivets, but they are very soft on that, and that goes for all of the rivets on here, as you can see. Now we go to our front end of our fuselage, and the panel line and rivet detail look okay for the most part. They do seem maybe a little bit thick, but not too bad. And then everything else, we have our HUD right here on that. Now here's where the issue is with the shape of the nose. It is too round. It is supposed to be kind of like not a pointed, but kind of looks like the head of a snake, in my opinion. the way that the shape of the nose is. So definitely going to need to go in and do some modifications to this. I did see a forum or a thread on a forum that shows how to do all the corrections for all of this area right in here, because there is a lot to go on up here with making new panels, new vents and everything to correct this whole area right here, and also the nose. And the name of that thread, if you Google it, if you put modeling, putting lipstick on a pig, or A-10 putting lipstick on a pig, that forum will or thread will show up. So that is definitely the way I'm going to be following to get this done, because I do know there are certain areas, and it's mapped out perfectly on that thread on how to do all the corrections. So that's where we're looking for that. And then we go to the other side. We do have a little bit of detail on the landing gear well right here. The ejector pin marks, we're not going to be able to see any of those because we do have that cockpit tub that goes around there. So no worries with those cockpit, or no ejector pin marks right there. And then the same thing with the other side as well. We don't have any landing gear detail because you're not going to be able to see that. This is where your gun ammo can fits in right there, and then a few other parts to go on right there. Alright, so that is everything for the Trumpeter 132nd A-10A Thunderbolt II, or affectionately known as the Warthog or Burt. But again, the kit, for out of the box, the kit looks okay. It is 25 years old, so it is showing its age, and we do absolutely need a new tooled A-10 in 1/32 scale. This is the only game in town when it comes to 1/32 scale for A-10s, and it is really starting to show its age. It definitely does need a lot of work with a lot of corrections to the nose, the engines, and some of the rivet detail and all that, and the panels and everything. It definitely takes a lot of work. Also doing a correction set or conversion set for the A-10C. Sorry, I thought I heard a knock on the door. But doing a conversion set for A-10C. And also the other thing of aftermarket that I would love to see for this kit would be the Dragon loader for the machine gun, for the gal in the front. That thing looks like an absolute beast and would be an absolute monster for a diorama. It would absolutely really be a nice piece for a diorama with this kit. But other than that, that's all I really have to say about this kit. I am looking forward to building it. It is going to take a lot of work, but that's what I love about the hobby. The kit looks like it's going to be okay. It does look like it's getting old. We are definitely in need of a new tool of the A-10. So that's all I have to say. If you haven't yet, don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell notification for notifications of when I post future videos. And until next time, I hope you guys have a great day, stay frosty, and happy modeling.